Hi there, good morning. So this is Miss Slattery, and I'm really excited because today we are going to do our very first chapter Friday. And if you don't know what this is, if I haven't talked about it too much in class, basically this is just an opportunity for me to share with you some of the best books that I've been reading. A lot of them will be young adult, not all of them. Some of them will be more new adults or even adult texts. But basically, I just want to give you an opportunity to hear some of these works, to see some of them. All of them are books that I own and I keep in my personal library. Um, and maybe you'll pick them up. I am willing to, share my personal books with you. I don't mind. Just let me know. Um, and you can have a good read and then we can talk about it. So today, the book that I want to share is actually one that might have been chosen for summer reading. It was one of the contenders. And while Turtles All the Way Down did win, and that was a great choice, this is one of my all-time favorite books by one of my all-time favorite authors. So Ruta Sepetys writes historical fiction, and she always tries to tell the story, as she says, of those who have been silenced or those who perhaps didn't get to speak up for themselves at the time. Um, and the book for today is called Salt to the Sea. And again, it's by Ruta Sepetys. And it's historical fiction. It takes place just at the tail end of World War II. And it's about a sinking ship that was actually much deadlier than the Titanic was. We all know about the Titanic. We never heard about this. And many people say the reason we didn't hear about the sinking of the ship is called the Gustav is because it was, mostly immigrants and refugees and people who weren't necessarily as covered in major media or things like that. So again, right at the end of World War II, if you like World War II at all, if you like learning about the Nazis and things like that, this is a really good story for that time period. So I'm going to go ahead and read you the back. This is what the back looks like. And actually, down here you can see Out of the Easy. That was the first book that I read by this author, and I fell in love with it. That's about a girl living in the 1950s in New Orleans. That's really good too. But I'll go ahead and read you the back. This is a New York Times bestseller, and it's in Time magazine. They were quoted as saying the forgotten tragedy that was 6 times deadlier than the Titanic. So that's kind of the tagline for this book. Again, I think that's really amazing. So it says Winter 1945. 4 refugees, 4 secrets. Each one born of a different homeland, each one hunted and haunted by tragedy, lies, war. As thousands desperately flock to the coast in the midst of a Soviet advance, 4 paths converge, vying for passage aboard the Wilhelm Gustloff, a ship that promises safety and freedom. But not all promises can be kept. So obviously you can see like kind of what I was talking about. You have these refugees trying to get out of the country, and a ship that is supposed to be their passage to safety that ends up sinking. Um, we'll go ahead and open it, and it's really interesting. If you're in English 9, not in English 9 honors, we don't read that, but in English 9 standard or co-taught, they read Refugee. And Refugee is a really cool book that's told from multiple different perspectives. This is really similar to that book. Not only is it also about refugees, political refugees, but it has 4 different points of view. And each chapter kind of goes between, there's Joanna and Alfred and Amelia and Florian. And I'm going to read you the first 4. So like a page from each point of view. You'll get so you can hear all 4 characters and like where they come from. But it's a really neat, again, told in those different points of view. It takes some time to get used to them and figure out who's who. But once you do, I think it's a really cool way to start. And I always say any book that comes with a map is a good book. So you can see this is a map of Europe, Western Europe in 1945. There might be some countries on there that you don't even recognize, like East Prussia, right? There's Lithuania, Poland in there. Sorry, my cat's trying to get in. So it's pretty cool. It's one of my favorites. And again, I'm going to take you through all 4 points of view. There's about a page in each person's point of view to start us off. So our very first point of view is from a young lady named Joanna. And I know that starts with a J, but that's how she pronounced her name. It's Joanna. Okay. So Joanna's chapter begins. Guilt is a hunter. My conscience mocked me, picking fights like a petulant child. It's all your fault, the voice whispered. I quickened my pace and caught up with our small group. The Germans would march us off the field road if they found us. Roads were reserved for the military. Evacuation orders hadn't been issued, and anyone fleeing East Prussia was branded a deserter. But what did that matter? I became a deserter 4 years ago, when I fled from Lithuania. Lithuania. I had left in 1941. What was happening at home? Were the dreadful things whispered in the streets true? We approached a mound on the side of the road. The small boy in front of me whimpered and pointed. He had joined us 2 days prior, just wandered out of the forest alone, and quietly began following us. Hello, little one. How old are you? I had asked. 6, he replied. Who are you traveling with? He paused and dropped his head. My Omi. I turned toward the woods to see if his grandmother had emerged. Where is your Omi now? I asked. The wandering boy looked up at me, his pale eyes wide. She didn't wake up. So the little boy traveled with us, often drifting just slightly ahead or behind, and now he stood, pointing to a flap of dark wool beneath a meringue of snow. I waved the group onward, and when everyone advanced, I ran to the snow-covered heap. The wind lifted a layer of icy flanks, revealing the dead blue face of a woman, probably in her 20s. Her mouth and eyes were hinged open, fixed in fear. I dug through her iced pockets, but they had already been picked. In the lining of her jacket, I found her identification papers. I stuffed them in my coat to pass on to the Red Cross, and dragged her body off the road and into the field. She was dead, frozen solid, but the thought of the tanks rolling over her was more than I could bear. I ran back to the road and our group. The wandering boy stood in the center of the path, snow falling all around him. She didn't wake up either? He asked quietly. I shook my head and took his mittened hand in mine. And then we both heard it in the distance. Bang. Okay, so you can see how, this is one girl's perspective. We have Joanna, who is Lithuanian, who has left her country. She's been gone for years now. So that's the first point of view that we're going to get. The second is Florian. And you're going to see, Florian is Prussian, and he's actually a soldier. Okay, so we'll get into Florian now. And notice how all the chapters start the same. It's cool. It's cool parallelism. So this is Florian, and he says, Fate is a hunter. Engines buzzed in a swarm above. Der Schwarztod, the Black Death, they called them. I hid beneath the trees. The planes weren't visible, but I felt them, close. Trapped by darkness both ahead and behind, I weighed my options. An explosion detonated and depth crept closer, curling around me in fingers of smoke. I ran. My legs churned, sluggish, disconnected from my racing mind. I willed them to move, but my conscience noosed around my ankles and pulled down hard. You are a talented young man, Florian. That's what my mother had said. You are Prussian. Make your own decisions, son, said my father. Would he have approved of my decisions, of the secrets I now carried across my back? Amidst this war between Hitler and Stalin, would mother still consider me talented or criminal? The Soviets would kill me, but how would they torture me first? The Nazis would kill me, but only if they uncovered my plan. How long would it remain a secret? The questions propelled me forward, whipping through the cold forest, dodging branches. I clutched my side with one hand, my pistol with the other. The pain surged with each breath and step, releasing warm blood out of the angry wound. The sound of the engines faded. I had been on the run for days, and my mind felt weak as my legs. The hunter preyed on the fatigued and weary. I had to rest. The pain slowed me to a jog and finally a walk. Through the dense trees in the forest, I spied branches hiding an old potato cellar. I jumped in. Bang. Okay, so again, we notice that chapter began very similarly and then ended with that bang that they're all hearing. Okay, so it's kind of bringing them together. The third point of view is going to be Amelia, and she's Polish. She's a little bit younger than Joanna. And for this section, there is a very passing, obscure mention of sexual assault. So it's not explicit by any means, but I do want to let you know before I read that. In fact, it's so abstract that I almost think if I didn't say anything, you might not have noticed. But it is an important point of what happens to Amelia in her story. So this is Amelia. And again, you're going to hear that chapter start the same way. Okay? Shame is a hunter. I would rest a moment. I had a moment, didn't I? I slid across the cold, hard earth toward the back of the cave. The ground quivered. Soldiers were close. I had to move but felt so tired. It was a good idea to put branches over the mouth of the forest cellar, wasn't it? No one would trek this far off the road, would they? I pulled the pink woolen cap down over my ears and tugged my coat closed near my throat. Despite my bundled layers, January's teeth bit sharp. My fingers had lost all feeling. Pieces of my hair, frozen crisp to my collar, tore as I turned my head. So I thought of August. My eyes dropped close, and then they opened. A Russian soldier was there. He leaned over me with a light, poking my shoulder with his pistol. I jumped, frantically pushing myself back. Fräulein, he grinned, pleased that I was alive. Komme, Fräulein. How old are you? 15, I whispered. Please, I'm not German. Nicht Deutsch. He didn't listen, didn't understand, or didn't care. He pointed his gun at me and yanked at my ankle. Shh, Fräulein. He lodged the gun under the bone of my chin. I pleaded. I put my hands across my stomach and begged. He moved forward. No, this would not happen. I turned my head. Shoot me, soldier, please. Bang. Okay, so again, that bang to finish off the chapter. And we're going to start this time with Alfred. And now what's really interesting about Alfred is we've seen Joanna, who's Lithuanian. We've seen Florian, who's Prussian. And then we saw Amelia, who's Polish. You saw she didn't speak any German. Nicht Deutsch, no German was what she said. And now we're going to go to Alfred. And Alfred actually is German. He's a Nazi. So we have the refugees, and then we also have his point of view, which I think is really interesting to see how they're going to interact as the story progresses. Okay. So again, we've had the three. This will be the final point of view. This is Alfred. Okay. It's going to start the same. He says, fear is a hunter. But brave warriors, we brush away fear with a flick of the wrist. We laugh in the face of fear, kick it like a stone across the street. Yes, Hannelore, I compose these letters to you in my mind first, as I cannot abandon my men as often as I think of you. You would be proud of your watchful companion, Sailor Alfred Frick. Today, I saved a young woman from falling into the sea. It was nothing, really, but she was so grateful she clung to me, not wanting to let go. Thank you, sailor. Her warm whisper lingered in my ear. She was quite pretty and smelled like fresh eggs, but there have been many grateful and pretty girls. Oh, do not be concerned. You and your red sweater are foremost in my thoughts. How fondly, how incessantly I think of my Hannelore and red sweater days. I'm relieved you are not here to see this. Your sugared heart could not bear the treacherous circumstances here in the port of Gotenhafen. At this very moment, I am guarding dangerous explosives. I am serving Germany well. Only 17, yet carrying more valor than those twice my years. There is talk of an honor ceremony, but I am too busy fighting for the Führer to accept honors. Honors are for the dead, I've told them. We must fight while we are alive. Yes, Hannelore, I shall prove to all of Germany there is indeed a hero inside of me. Bang. I abandoned my mental letter and crouched in the supply closet, hoping no one would find me. I did not want to go outside. Okay. So again, not quite a chapter because we had 4 different little mini sections, right, of the 4 different points of view. But guys, if you like historical fiction at all, if you want a story with great characters, with romance and mystery and tragedy and death and everything that makes a book exciting, this is the book. Again, one of my favorites. If you don't check out this one, do try and check out one of her other ones. Out of the Easy, again, that's a great one. She really writes great teen characters and great historical fiction. If you want to borrow this one, let me know. We will try and make that happen. But otherwise, guys, it's been a great First Chapter Friday. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week. Bye-bye.